Hello, I'm Kay Royal, and today I'm going to take you inside the mind of a lawyer. So magical, so mystical, so talented, yet so despised. There is no other profession on earth that is as reviled yet respected as lawyers. Today I'm going to provide you a foundation and a framework to understand people who are lawyers, or lawyers. It's all in how you say it, and I say it like a girl straight out of Mississippi. Clearly, lawyers are a popular topic. There are more lawyer jokes than there are actual lawyers. But really, there's only 3 lawyer jokes. All the rest are true stories. So we're going to dissect the brain in 3 steps, and I do have an ulterior motive for this. We're going to understand those who are lawyers, talk about living with lawyers, and then working with lawyers. First, being a lawyer. My kids once gave me a shirt for Mother's Day that said, "Trust me, I am a lawyer." We were in a grocery store checking out, and the clerk opined that my shirt would be even funnier if I actually was a lawyer. Now, how does someone who's known me for 3 oatmeal boxes and a pack of crackers make a judgment call that I don't look like a lawyer? Am I too funny, too sweet, too southern, too girly? Yes, all of that. I'm the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree, much less a law degree. I never even knew a lawyer growing up. So it tells you that lawyers come from all different areas of the world and all walks of life. Although lawyers include men, women, non-binary people, minorities, people with disabilities, we don't have the diversity we need in the profession, and this creates a misperception of who we actually are. You look at the profession of lawyers, seems pretty homogenous, doesn't it? Law schools actually average about 50-50 male versus female graduates, but women hold barely 22% of managing partner jobs and not even 1/3 of general counsels. The percentages are much worse for minorities and much, much worse for those of us who admit to having disabilities, which is less than 1% of us. This leads to statements that women and minorities aren't successful as lawyers, another inaccurate perception of who we are as lawyers. A few years ago, I did a series of surveys among women attorneys. It was through the Association of Corporate Counsel, and I asked women, how do you define success? And out of all the studies I did, not a single woman ever listed her job title, or anything related to her job as a metric of success. Lawyers are like all other people. We have our own reasons for doing what we do and what we think of as success. It varies. Some of us could be doing this for money, some for fame, job title, world peace. My law dean warned us the first day of law school that we were going to change. She was talking to us and our families. She warned our families that starting that day, we would ask for the precise meaning of words. We would debate everything. We would explore the intent behind actions and, frankly, become someone's our families might not even recognize. I mean, if you move a comma in a sentence, you could change the meaning of that sentence like 17 different ways. Let's hear it for the Oxford comma, right? My kids swear, though, that I never changed. They were 8 and 10 when I started law school, so they could be right. I've been like this most of my life. I just didn't make it to law school until I was in my 30s. We can be just as confused and lost as young adults as everybody else can be. But even within the profession, we judge each other, often on things as simple as what law school we went to. Apparently, there's this rumor out there that if you didn't go to an Ivy League law school, you can't be a good attorney. I don't believe that. I mean, I could have gone to an Ivy League law school. I had top 3% in the LSAT, but my choices were driven by my life. I was a single mom at the time. I was a registered nurse. I needed to be where my kids were and where I could work. Do I think that this made me a worse attorney? Not at all. Do I think it limited my career options? No, not whatsoever. And you know why? Because there are so many different types of law out there. I mean, most people are familiar with criminal law. You break a law, you get in trouble. You pay a fine, you go to jail, might even face the death penalty. And if you think lawyers are reviled, then defense attorneys are evil personified. But let's look at it. If the U.S. government is allowed free rein to make decisions about life and liberty without being forced to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, or to follow the rules that we as a society has defined, then the world would be a much different place. It wouldn't be what we built. That evil person, that defense attorney, is the one protecting civilization. That famous line, "The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers," from Shakespeare, Henry VI. It's said in the context of the character wanting to get away with criminal activity. Essentially anarchy. And in order to bring down the country, you have to kill the ones who protect the people. First, kill all the lawyers. There aren't as many areas of law as there are lawyer jokes, but if you have a passion or a desire to practice a certain type of law, you can generally find it. Some, like me, work for a company. I'm considered an in-house counsel, and I'm a global privacy lawyer. Even lawyers, most of them, don't know what that means. It means I'm a geek. I work with companies, tech companies, startup companies, global companies, to help them define and use personal data properly. I'm good at what I do, but I darn sure don't know it all. And that's what makes the law fun. It's fascinating, and it's growing and changing and evolving. It's like solving a mystery every day, and I love it. But not everyone who goes to law school becomes a lawyer. One of my best friends was number 6 in the class, and what she was looking for was the knowledge and the options. But if you do want to be a lawyer, there are certain things you have to do besides law school. You have to take a bar exam, which is about 2 to 3 days. You have to pass an ethics exam, which is pretty tough. And then you have to pass the character and fitness, which means you're telling the state bar essentially everything you've done since you were 18 years old, where you've worked, where you've lived. And for most lawyers that graduate that went straight after undergrad, that might only be, 5-6 years worth of history? For me, it was just a little longer. Most people have no idea that we undergo such strict scrutiny. They'd rather believe that we're unethical sharks, because again, that's what the media shows you. I knew someone that hated being a lawyer. He was good at it, and he made good money, but he hated doing it. And I could not imagine being in a career or a profession in which I was miserable. That moves us from understanding people who are lawyers to living with lawyers. We question everything. I mentioned that, right? We have expectations. When one of my friends was accepted into law school, her mother was like, "Yay, now you can meet and marry a lawyer." Wait, stop, time out. How about we become that lawyer our mom wanted us to marry? Law school is full of individuals that until they got there, they were the top of the class. They were the smartest person in the room. And now they're surrounded by 200, 300, 400 other people who are also the smartest person in the room. This causes a fundamental shift in their self-identity. And not all of them make it through that shift so well. Some of us choose law as a second or a third career. One of my classmates retired from the military. Then he went to work for a private corporation and retired from that. And then he came to law school at 69 years old, solely for the purpose of being able to provide free services to those who can't afford it. Older law students really aren't that common. We may be full of street smarts and practical experience, but we're intimidated by these young little whippersnappers who can quote case law the way my high school chemistry teacher could quote the periodic table. What'd K stand for again? It's important for lawyers to marry the right person because that person essentially needs to be a saint. But children ain't saints. Being a kid with a lawyer parent is very difficult. Cross-examination, regardless of the extent of the alleged crime, truly is the fastest and best way to get to the truth. Shark mom beats tiger mom every time. The good thing is we do tend to forewarn our loved ones about the predicted outcome of arguing with us. I literally make a living cutting through the BS you just handed me. Or, you do realize that I've thought through this 14,605 times, and in none of them, none, do you come out the winner. Do they listen to us? Nah. They give it right back to us. I have known children who have filed lawsuits against the tooth fairy, or they've given their father a written reprimand for forgetting cupcake day at school, or if they felt they were grounded unfairly, they've even offered settlement terms to get out of it. But being married to another lawyer might help. Lawyers bicker, 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 bicker all day long, and then they go out to drink or dinner. So if that's your spouse, that might work. But non-lawyer spouses don't deal with this drastic shift that they see us go through. Now, being a woman in the law is another matter. A lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome. It means that no matter how good we are, how far we've come, how hard we've worked, we don't believe we deserve the role we're in or the responsibilities we have. We are terrified that somebody will identify that we're faking our way through this. However, women, more than men, tend to have that crazy ability to find that one little kernel of hope left in someone that makes them redeemable. Now, that's a fantastic trait to have if you're an advocate. It's not so much a great trait to have in a relationship because it does make us susceptible to abuse. We also tend to intimidate our significant others, which is another factor in abusive relationships. Abuse knows no cultural or money boundaries. And yes, smart women, accomplished women, attorneys can also be victims of abuse. My husband and I, however, made a deal. He takes care of me and I take care of everything else, and it works for us. Which moves us to the last part of working with attorneys. It always surprises me how often people want free advice. Would you ask a doctor to operate for free? Okay, maybe you would, but you would understand that surgery and treating patients costs money. Well, so does the law. It takes time and money to consider an issue, to examine the various points, to interpret that placement of a comma. Is it here? Is it there? If your lawyer gives you a quick answer and you're like, oh, well, I shouldn't have to pay her for that because that didn't take her but 5 minutes. That's not the case. You're not paying for those 5 minutes per se. You're paying for the years of education and experience that your lawyer has gone through to be in a position to give you a quick answer. And lawyers all learn the basics in law school. But what we really learn about solving problems and thinking critically is how to think like a lawyer. You want us to think like a lawyer. We think like ourselves. We think like the opposing lawyer. We think like the judge lawyer. And we think like the appellate judge lawyers. We know how we're thinking. We don't consider just two sides of an issue. We consider all of them, like an icosahedron, 20-sided die, all of them. This is why the, oh, quick question is rarely ever quick. I mean, it might be quick if you have a very, very experienced lawyer in the field that you're asking the question for. Might also be quick if you have an inexperienced lawyer who doesn't know enough to ask more questions or to understand the nuances. And I once knew someone who overlapped the person who took her job, and he was wrong a lot. And yet everyone loved him. He didn't ask questions. He didn't do more research. He gave them an immediate answer right there, no dickering about it. It was done. And they loved him. But he was usually wrong. And trust me, when it comes to the law, you want quality over speed. You really, really do. A bad lawyer makes your case drag on for years, but a good lawyer makes it last even longer than that. And I hear people complain about women lawyers. Oh, I don't want a cute fluffy poodle. I want a Rottweiler. Do you know what the difference is between a pit bull and a female attorney? Lipstick. Don't mistake femininity for lack of skill. I'm a girly girl. I compete in pageants and I cosplay, mainly Maleficent. Don't judge a book by its cover, and stop judging lawyers by the Hollywood version of what you're being shown. Lawyers are people like anyone else. Some of us have people skills. Some of us even like people. We have families, we have hobbies, we volunteer, we do pro bono, meaning free legal services for those who can't afford it, not meaning that we decided to write off someone's bill who didn't pay us. Lawyers should do pro bono. Let me repeat that. Lawyers should do pro bono. We have specialized training, education, and experience that less than 1% of the population has, according to the American Bar Association for the United States. We owe it to our communities to help in ways that other people simply cannot do. With great power comes great responsibility. Remember, geek. But being a lawyer isn't a switch that we can turn on or off. The lawyer is always on. We have ways of thinking and talking that might confuse people, might irritate people, might make you think we don't have a heart. We've learned to take the passion out of the argument and listen for the logic. And that's exactly what you want us to do. You've had a glimpse into what it means to be a lawyer. True stories of living with lawyers, and a little bit of insight into working with lawyers. We are the defenders of law. We might be wearing high heels or bright suits. We might be wearing lipstick. Underestimating us is a mistake, but understanding us is a powerful, powerful tool. We are lawyers, but we are people first. And that ulterior motive I was talking about, it's because we want you to come work with us. In the now infamous words of Amanda Gorman, if only you're brave enough to see it, if only you're brave enough to be it. Be brave. Come join us. Help us defend our civilization and defend those who need help. Thank you.